So Tara, you are one of the few people that's made the transition from being a production cast singer into being a guest entertainer now. That's quite a transition.
Yes, it was. But I think I had a huge advantage coming from being a production singer, because for several years I got to be in the cast, but then get to go every night and see a different show, a different headliner, a different type of act in the theater on all my off nights. And so from that experience, you see a lot of really good acts, and you see a lot of not so great acts. And from that, I was able to really kind of narrow down, if I did this, what would I want to do? Like, what have I learned from this? The good things and the bad things. So.
I always think that is you were in a unique position, a wonderful position of being able to do exactly that, to look at other acts. Because when I started as an act, I'm never going to see another singer because they've already, a guest entertaining singer, because they're not going to book two of us at the same time. So I would just sort of assume that what I was doing was the right thing because I kept being hired. But I still wonder now how it compares to other acts, because I never see other singers. But you were in this position of being able to watch everybody.
Right, absolutely. And it's remarkable, really. Like, you can see how there is kind of a formula that a lot of people follow, which it's like, I don't know how everyone figures that out, maybe just from talking, but it's true. Like, you probably don't get that advantage if you're a juggler seeing 5 different jugglers and how your show compares.
And from you thinking, maybe I want to be a guest entertainer instead of a production singer, how long did it take you to really, get down to it and start putting the act together?
I would say probably a good year, because probably for a year of it, of watching all the acts, I really didn't have an interest in doing it myself at first. But it was kind of just one of those things where you're like, wow, I could do that if I wanted to. So do I want to invest the time? Do I want to invest the money? Like, should I try it? And so then once I made the decision, okay, I'm going to do this. It probably took a good year of working on different arrangements, trying different things out. And also I was in a unique situation as well, because I had cruise directors and musicians around me who were willing to be like, okay, let's play to that chart. Okay. Or let's try it out tonight. And so I had a lot of trial and error that I think a lot of people don't really get that, or they get
an amazing opportunity.
First time opportunity. Exactly. In front of a live audience, or where the pressure's on, or where, oh, this is my first big gig. Instead, I really wasn't that nervous. I mean, I definitely had a lot to prove, because all the musicians were my friends. And of course, like, I set myself at a high level that if I was going to do it, I wanted to do it very well. But that was a huge advantage, getting to have access to the space, to the musicians, to everything. I mean, the
audience. For free.
It's for free. Absolutely.
And to sort of test out a few songs here and there, test out a little bit of patter.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it was great. And then I didn't get to do it a whole lot of times before I went out on my first gig, but I probably got to do it 3 times. Like, in
this relatively safe environment before you were really out there on your own.
Exactly. So, but I think it was enough. It was enough just to give me that boost of confidence to do it, to know, like, okay, and by talking to other friends that were guest entertainers, they were kind of giving me heads up on different lines, different companies, different bands, what to expect, how to maybe avoid some tricky situations, things like that. And thus, my first gig, I knew I was going to a company that was pretty infamous for having terrible musicians and terrible bands. So, yeah, that's why I made it really important that I brought my boyfriend, who I knew would be able to play piano. So if all else fails, it would be voice and piano. And
you were lucky.
It would be a great show. Exactly. Yeah. But we were able to use the musicians and use the band. And so even that one, for me being nervous for my first time, it still went really well. As opposed to if I, maybe walked into that blindly, it could have been terrible.
If, most people aren't going to be lucky enough to have their, musical director boyfriend traveling with them. If you'd have been doing that on your own, or if the next time you work for a cruise line or anywhere, where the musicians aren't as good as you would hope, how would you cope with that? What advice would you give to somebody that's, steps into a situation when you think, crikey, can these guys play these charts?
Right. Well, I guess you just have to be prepared. I mean, for every different scenario, like, know which charts are always going to be safe for you, like which ones are the easiest to play and which ones, okay, once I know the pianist is really great, maybe be able to, okay, maybe I'll pass that one along to him and see how he works.
So you'd be prepared to change your act, really, based on...
Absolutely. And one thing I've been trying to be good about the last couple times where Joel didn't travel with me or he didn't play my show with me, I just made sure that ahead of time I got together with the pianist, at least the day before, before, if not 2 days before. Just made sure, okay, here's the tricky areas, here's the parts that are really exposed and it's really important, and then try them out. So then it's not on the day of your show that you're freaking out that, oh no, the pianist can't play it, or he's a terrible sight reader, or whatever it is. So I think...
At least you've got a whole night before your show to worry about it.
then you're just stressed for 2 days before. No, but I think I was really lucky. Of course, no one is going to be as good as the person who wrote the chart for me or who I'm used to playing with. But I think I've been lucky so far in that the audience would never know. Like, there's not parts missing. Even all the pianists have been able just to at least do the bare bones. And
a lot of that's due to the writing, right?
Exactly.
That there's no good having somebody write in an overly clever way,
right.
That's sort of showing off. So they say to other pianists, hey, look how clever these charts are, if nobody can play them.
Right, and Joel was great when he did my arrangements for me. It was very important for him, I think, to have that, like, okay, your arrangements are going to be somewhat idiot-proof, in that, like, they're very clear, very easy to read. Like, you can add this part if they're an exceptional player, but it's not necessary. And, and I'm still kind of figuring that out with... new charts and new things, like, okay, which ones can I get away with now?
And did you change your act much from when you did your first full performance, or has it stayed pretty much the same?
Yeah, very few things have changed. I think because I got to think about it so like long in advance of like what I wanted to do and what I had learned from seeing so many different vocalists of like, I really like it when a vocalist does this, or ooh, I don't see many vocalists do this, so I definitely want to make sure I do that. I think I had such a clear image to begin with that it really hasn't changed. If anything, it might be just exchanging one song for another song that's kind of similar,
right.
Or like, oh, this is a little stronger, or this is maybe more popular, so I'll do that in that slot instead. But other than that...
And did you work like that, kind of have like a template by the sound of it, and so I do this sort of song here and this sort of song there?
Yeah, I think so. I ended up kind of, again, coming up with a nice formula that works for me of just like the flow of like fast, slow, or, just how many different ballads I should have, or what different, okay, now's a nice moment just to have voice and piano as opposed to the full band.
Did you struggle with the patter, the chat, or is that something that came easy to you?
Oh, definitely. I think... just because
easy or bad?
No, it's definitely challenging because as a singer, oh sure, I can stand up and sing for hours on end, just throw the music in front of me, or I know a million songs. But it's true. I think that's because that's where it comes into play. If you have good, I don't know, directorial sense or something, that what works and how to paint the whole picture as opposed to just singing some songs. I think that's definitely where the show comes to life, and it takes a lot more time. It can sound so casual and so minimal, the patter, but I think it's the glue, and it's definitely hard to come up with something that's genuine, but also that's worth saying, and I don't know. I think and I think I still struggle with that whenever I'm coming up with new shows and new segues.
And what about humor?
I have none. I guess that's up to everybody. I've definitely seen some really stiff performances where people use no humor and the audiences react very well to them. So it's funny, but I just think for me, I could never do a show that I'm not kind of joking around or not at least saying something kind of funny, Maybe not jokes per se, but just something that's natural in my own sense of humor. But it's funny. I see a lot of shows where it's almost like you're watching a recital almost. Of they just song, interesting fact, tell you about the composer, next song, and the audience still goes wild at the end if they're talented or if they like the material.
I think people can get away with that if they've really got an incredible voice, But unless they're really exceptional,
right.
For me as an audience member, I just think it's a bit boring. I want to learn about the person.
Absolutely, it's true. You want to see someone's personality, somebody's sense of humor come across on stage. So, and that's your time to do it. When you're talking, when you're not singing, of course, you can do a funny song, but.
What are the advantages and the disadvantages of being a guest entertainer as opposed to a production cast singer?
The disadvantages are what I've learned. I definitely had my safe little family and my friends and my whole little world there where I got to only unpack once. And then there was my life, there's my world, there's my friends. So definitely now being a guest entertainer, your world is changing all the time. And so there's a lot more traveling, a lot more packing and unpacking. And every new ship you go on, you have to introduce yourself, you have to make friends, you have to get to know the cruise director, get to know the different audiences, get to know, what they expect of you. And so that's always going to change. Yeah, get to know a different band each time. I mean, there's so many different elements that change as opposed to being in your safe world from before. So it's more work, but it's more money, so it's more work. It's it's more gratifying though too, because it's all you at the end of the day. So
do you think you've had to learn and develop some new sort of skills other than just being able to sing and chat in your show, just to sort of cope with the life of a guest entertainer and traveling around?
Absolutely. Where I think being social definitely works to your advantage, because I think the more you're out and about and a cruise director sees you or audience members get to know you, I think all of that pays off, as opposed to being in the cast where you can kind of hide out and, it's maybe not as important.
And any advice for people just starting out?
Good luck. It's tough. I mean, because clearly it's a great job that everybody wants to do. I mean, why wouldn't they? I mean, it's fabulous. But it's really competitive because there's a ton of people trying to do it. So just be smart about it. Ask for help. Ask for advice from friends that have been in the business. Don't pretend that you know it all already. That you have to expect that you have to make changes or learn from mistakes, or maybe your first instincts maybe aren't going to be correct with what you think, oh, this is going to be a great song, a great choice. You have to be like, trust opinions around you, I guess, and learn from it.
Sounds like great advice. Thank you for talking to us, and good luck yourself.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening to this Cabaret Secrets podcast. If you've got any comments or questions, please visit cabaretsecrets.com, where you'll also find details of the Cabaret Secrets book, an indispensable guide on how to create your own show, travel the world, and get paid to do what you love.